I'm Anna, 28, standing in the small community gallery, surrounded by the soft hum of conversation and the warm glow of gallery lights. I'm filled with a sense of pride I've never felt before. My photography exhibition is a success, and as I look around at the people admiring my work, I can't help but think about how far I've come. But it wasn't always like this. I grew up in a small town in Texas, in a big, old house on the outskirts. My parents, Margaret and Henry, seemed like the perfect couple from the outside. My mother, Margaret, was a well-known socialite in town. She was involved in every charity event and club, always dressed to the nines. My father, Henry, was a successful lawyer, working long hours at the office. But behind closed doors, things were very different. My mother was extremely controlling. From the moment I could talk, she had a plan for my life. I started piano lessons at age 4 because ladies play the piano. At 5, I was enrolled in dance classes, and by 6, I was taking French lessons. Nothing I did was ever good enough for her. If I got an A on a test, she'd say, "Why not an A? You're capable of better." My father, on the other hand, was often absent, both physically and emotionally. When he was home, he'd just nod along to my mother's criticisms, saying, "Your mother just wants what's best for you, Anna." It was easier for him to stay out of the way than to stand up to her. As a teenager, every normal desire I had became a battle. I wanted to wear jeans and t-shirts like my friends, but my mother insisted on dresses and skirts. I wanted to go to the movies with my classmates, but she thought those kids were a bad influence. When I was 17, I got a part-time job at a local coffee shop. My mother was furious. "You should be spending your time studying or doing something more productive," she said. After high school, I applied to colleges as far away from Texas as I could. I got into a university in New York City. The day I left home, I felt like I could finally breathe. In New York, I majored in art history, something I was truly passionate about. I joined an art club and started taking photography classes on the side. But even from a distance, my mother's influence followed me. She'd call me every week, criticizing my choices. "Art history? What kind of career can you have with that? You should have gone to law school like your father." I started avoiding her calls, and our conversations became fewer and farther between. After graduation, finding a job in my field was tough. I ended up working at a small art gallery, making barely enough to pay my rent. When I told my mother about my job, she was disappointed. "You could come back home and work in your father's office. It's a stable job," she said. But I knew it wasn't about my career. It was about her controlling me again. For a few years, I tried to build a relationship with my mother. I'd send her postcards from art exhibitions I attended and call her on her birthday. But every interaction ended the same way, with her criticizing me and me feeling like a failure. Then, on her 55th birthday, I decided to do something special. I saved up for months to take her to a fancy French restaurant in New York. I bought her a beautiful piece of jewelry, a necklace with a sapphire, which cost me a small fortune. The night of the dinner, she arrived looking elegant as ever. At first, things seemed to be going well. We talked about the art scene in New York, and she even complimented my choice of restaurant. But then, out of nowhere, she said, "Anna, you're 28 now. You still don't have a proper career and you're not married. What are you doing with your life? The best gift you could give me would be if you got your act together and left this aimless life behind." I was stunned. I tried to defend myself, saying that I was happy with my life. But she just kept going, listing all the things I'd done wrong. "I've tried to guide you, but you've always been so stubborn," she said. "Maybe it would be best if you just left my life until you can become the person I know you can be." Those words hit me like a ton of bricks. I sat there, unable to move or speak. The restaurant around me seemed to fade away, and all I could hear was her voice repeating in my head. That night, I went back to my apartment and made a decision. I was going to disappear. I quit my job, closed my bank account, and sold all my furniture. I changed my name to Lily and bought a bus ticket to Seattle. In Seattle, starting over was hard. I got a job at a small bookstore and I rented a tiny studio apartment. I had to be careful not to let anyone know my real identity. I dyed my hair brown and started wearing glasses. I was constantly afraid that my mother would find me. But slowly, I began to build a new life. I met a guy named Tom at the bookstore. He was a bird watching enthusiast, and he always came in looking for books on local birds. We became friends and eventually more. I also started seeing a therapist, Dr. Emily. Through our sessions, I began to understand the emotional abuse I'd suffered at the hands of my mother. I learned to set boundaries and to value myself for who I was, not who my mother wanted me to be. Then one day it happened. I was at the bookstore, arranging a new display of books, when I heard a voice that sent shivers down my spine. Anna? I turned around, and there was my father, looking older and more tired. He told me that he'd left my mother 6 months after I disappeared. He'd finally seen the way she treated me and couldn't stand by anymore. He'd been searching for me ever since, and when he saw my photography exhibition announcement online, he knew it was me. He also said that my mother had changed. She was in therapy and she was filled with regret. She missed me and wanted to see me, but only if I was ready. I was conflicted. Part of me was angry that it took my disappearance for my father to stand up to my mother. But another part of me was happy to see him and to know that he'd been looking for me. After thinking about it for a long time, I decided to meet my mother. We met in a hotel in Denver, a neutral place. When she walked in, she looked smaller and more vulnerable. She apologized, saying that she was sorry for all the pain she'd caused me. I told her that I'd changed my name to Lily and that I had a new life in Seattle. I also set some conditions for any future relationship. We had to proceed slowly, she had to respect my boundaries, and she had to continue with her therapy. She agreed, and over the next few months, we started to build a new relationship. It's still a work in progress, but I'm proud of myself for standing up for what I want and for rebuilding my life. Looking back on my journey from Anna to Lily, I realize that sometimes the greatest gift we can give ourselves is the courage to walk away from a situation that's hurting us and the strength to rebuild in a place where we can truly grow.